Okay, welcome everybody. So just who is here for the first time? Just raise your hand in the practice. Bernice, I think that's major. Yeah, I think Barbara is the first time and Tor as well.
Meir.
Nice. Meir is here. Okay. So what is this meeting about? We are just here doing these monthly gatherings with these purposes. To connect people from different places, first of all. We love to do this, and we encourage you to do the same. So by the time you get connected in breakouts, exchange emails and everything, and get together, lovely people. We always learn something together. So Meir is here with us to show a very nice practice, but we'll be learning from everyone. With this, we expand possibilities and we have fun. So basically, that's why we have been doing this for more than 2 years now, and we'll keep doing this because we just love to do this. And my take on this process is to connect people. So I have been here and there looking for different forums, different spaces. And maybe 3 weeks ago, Mir, don't remember, we met in a forum. It was like a fishbowl. Oh, this is an interesting guy. And then we exchanged messages, we got connected, we have a very good talk. It was planned to be like half an hour, it's extended for more than 1 hour. And then I invited him to, okay, come to the practice with us. And he just accepted. So we have him here, different culture, different country, and a lovely process that he just showed us a few days ago in details, and it's lovely. So welcome, Meir. Thank you for coming. Carolina will be just doing some remarks and hand over to you. Okay.
Yeah, so just
Carolina.
Yeah, we are going to be for 90 minutes, and just be aware of all your alerts and distractions, and create a place to. We are going to have a lot of things to take notes, so have a paper and a pen handy for you. And Meir, thank you for coming, and the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. Hello, everyone. I'm Meir. I'm a designer-based play wizard. I play with thinking. Sometimes I like to refer to myself as a conscious arsonist because I like to burn ideas, burn the old to open for the new. And I enjoy what I do because I like to play with my own thinking. I like to work with the discipline of the mind because I like to discipline my own mind. Whatever I do stems from me and nothing else. I am not here to help you. We all help each other, but we mostly help ourselves. So I am just here to take you through a journey of expanding our values, deepening their meanings, maybe understanding a bit further what they mean for us, and discovering how we can use them in our lives in a better way. Whatever I do, whenever I play with people, I use this approach I like to call contribution balanced participation. We are all contributing in one way or another, for sure. Whatever we have been experiencing and we will be experiencing opens our hearts to new possibilities, allows for abundance and for us to be connected with it. And contribution balanced participation is a way for all of you participants of this experience to balance that contribution in a financial manner. It allows you to give generously from your heart, from 0 to infinity. There are no limits on either sides. It's infinity on the both sides. So it's completely up to you. You can give, you can decide to give whatever this experience will bring you in terms of abundance. So connect with that abundance And I would like Fernando to share the link now, but we will be sharing it in the end also. You can read it more and learn more about it. By the way, the text that is included, you can use it for yourselves in whatever you do. It's open for everyone. I did not write it for myself only. Whatever I do is open for everybody. So I guess let's start. The way we'll be starting is going to be by playing a game. It's called co-counting. It's very easy. We will be counting till 15 altogether. I would like to invite everyone to turn on their videos so that we can see each other. Also, turn on your microphones. We'll be hearing each other. How are we going to count till 15? First of all, we'll be counting consecutively, so we cannot go from 1 to 7. It needs to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We will be writing in the chat and not saying the numbers. Well, we can say the numbers, but they won't be counted. So when we are writing, every person can only write one number at a time. So I cannot write 1, 2, and 3 at the same time. If at any moment a number is written more than once, we start from the beginning. If at any moment we miss the consecutive order, we start from the beginning. Okay? Let's try it. Keep your microphones on, keep your videos on. Let's hear each other laughing, whatever we're experiencing. Let's. Okay, 1.
2. 3.
We are writing it in the chat. Whatever we are saying, it doesn't count, so we don't have to say anything.
We have to go back to
the
1.
beginning.
We need to go back to 1, yeah.
Back to 1 again. 2, 3.
We need to slow
Back.
down. Slow down.
I trust the group
1,
dynamic to figure this one out.
2, 3, 4.
Slow down.
Oh,
Back
Dang.
to 1.
back to 1, 2, 3.
Who be the 5?
Oh, dang.
No, we gotta go back. Okay.
Let's do it in like alphabetical order or something. Can we coach each other?
We need to start from the beginning.
We could just play toss the ball, right? Like one person
Yeah.
puts a number in and then call out
Yeah.
the person's name.
Good
Yeah.
idea, Candace.
Good
Slow
idea,
it down.
Candace.
So who put the number past the other one? That's
Okay,
Major.
Mayor put the first number
That's-
and toss the ball.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, now S Major said 2. Now Tara is 3.
Tara.
3.
All right, you call it next.
Okay, Suzanne.
4.
Okay, let's make it easier and count till 10.
Baroness.
Candace.
Baroness, you can, yeah.
Uh,
And call on someone, Baroness.
oh, me.
I did.
I
said
called on
Candace.
me and I called on Mark.
Oh, 7.
Don't mess up, people.
Um,
So close.
Jean, have you gone?
No, I'll go.
No.
Oh, are there 2 Jeans?
Oh, Jean. I thought you said Jane. I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
All right,
Well,
I went.
we're
So
still
Jean.
going,
Now
we're
I'll
still
call
going.
Jean. I'll call Jean.
9.
And the last
And-
number.
S
The last
major.
number. Can we make it?
Yay!
Awesome.
Quickly, what have you observed? What have you observed in this?
We need communication.
Can you repeat
I've
that?
observed that we tend, anyway, I'll talk for myself. I tend to jump to solutions right away instead of trying to organize how to go about things. So, and slow down, patience, no patience, jumped into it, do. And yeah, so that's my observation.
I wear this hat too.
Yeah, I was observing though. I kind of was like, okay, how's this going to work? And then I was like, I just was watching. It was really interesting process of just watching, like everyone try to sort through the options and just observing and observing and observing, and then waiting and seeing what would bubble up in terms of a solution, which was a nice experience.
It's
Okay.
interesting. I played this game before with staff and I played it with children. With adults, I've watched people hesitate to, because we did it verbally, not in a chat. Children, after a while, they don't like to lose. So they waited long. They took us longer to say, wait, we got to wait for each other. Kids, when they realized that they were being impulsive, they was like, hold up, let's get a plan. So it was interesting to see the dynamics today. And I even caught myself jumping in, even in the chat. I was like, okay, 1, 2, 3. And I would try to anticipate, okay, somebody's gonna hit 4. So I would put 6 because it takes a couple seconds for it to send in the chat. But it's just an interesting dynamic to have played this game with adults and with children.
So we are realizing things about each other, about ourselves. We talked about patience, we've talked about observations, we talked about observing what is about to come, but also waiting for others, giving the floor to others. We are seeing many different dynamics taking place. And when any group plays this game, what comes up is really unique to that group. I've experienced many different things with this game in many different groups. Some people just decided to create an order. Some people, decided to become authoritative and say, okay, I will tell who is going to say the numbers. In this group, you decided to give the next person the floor, invite the next person. So it was really interesting to watch this. But within all this, we are observing also another thing, which is, as a society, as a group of people, we are embodying certain values. We are realizing the importance of certain values. So I would like to invite you to talk a bit about what values are. What do you think a value is when we're talking about our core values? What do you think a value is? Whoever wants to comment can just unmute themselves and comment. What is a value?
I was going to say, for me, a value is like it's a principle. Well, in some cases, it's a principle that I want to, sort of use to act, a principle of action.
A principle of action. Very simple, very concise definition. Cool. Who else would like you to contribute to the definition of what a value is?
It's a kind of a bit of a moral foundation in some ways. Belief, a set of belief systems that sort of make up this foundation that we operate from.
Okay, a moral foundation that we operate from.
And yet being respectful of others.
Okay, being respectful of others at the same time. Okay, so this is kind of going in the direction of like maybe an analogy for it, maybe, well, a compass, which shows us the north, our north, a moral foundation, a principle of action, a moral foundation which we operate from, and we're also respectful of others. So if we are defining it this way, the values are things or concepts or ideas or a moral foundation, principles that we're operating from. It enables us to make decisions in situations, right? We're making constantly a lot of decisions. Every single moment we're making a decision. Even talking about ourselves within ourselves, we're making decisions. Like, we try to do something, we could not do it. Have I failed? Am I successful? Am I stupid? Am I clever? Am I good? Am I bad? Was this okay or was this not? We're constantly deciding, even just on our ideas and thoughts. There is no single time that we're not deciding. It may be consciously or unconsciously. We may be aware of them, unaware of them. It doesn't matter. We're doing that nonetheless. So if we're deciding on everything every single time, and our values dictate how we decide, I guess values become a very core thing in how we behave and how we think, even maybe in how we feel. It has a huge impact on our presence, how we operate. So now I would like to invite you to write 5 of your values. At most, write 5. You don't have to write 5. Whatever comes is okay. And I will be giving you like 4 minutes, 3 minutes for this. You know, it's not very precise. It doesn't have to be. Just start writing. And while you're writing, take little notes of what each of them means. You don't have to write complete sentences. And take little notes of why they're important for you. And try to push yourself to find 5. If you can't, like I said, that's okay. Sometimes we kind of know our first value or our second value, but then the third one, well, what else do I have? What else do I base my decision making on? What are my principles, really? These questions come into mind. And try to be as honest as possible. You don't have to sound profound. Like, very simple things can be also a value. Money can be a value. Depend on what kind of decisions you're making on and what you're basing them on. Think of how you spend your time with your family. Think of how you spend your time with friends. Think of how you spend your time in the public environment. Think of how you spend your time alone by yourselves. Maybe in your work environment. How do you behave? Let's give 1 more minute to this and write as much as you can. I will not be grading you if you're successful or not. I will not be grading you if you found all the 5 and you are the king and the queen. Whatever you write, you're already infinitely valuable. Let's take 10 more seconds so that you can finish writing the last words, your last letter, maybe the last embellishment on one letter that you'd like to make. So after writing this, look at those values that you've written down. You're living with these things. Though sometimes, interestingly, they contradict each other. Like one of them becomes more important than another one. So you prioritize that one over the other. Like if I have two values and one of them is family and one of them is friends, if at the same time my family is inviting me over dinner and my friends are inviting me to party, which one do I choose? Things happen and we prioritize our values. So now I would like to ask you to identify which one of those values do you think is the most important for you? Maybe when thinking about this, you can change your answers and combine them and figure out a completely different value which combines some of them because you cannot decide. Because it's harder to let go of one of your child's. But if you can prioritize, please do so and find the one that is the most important for you. And while finding that, think of your memories, moments where that specific value impacted you, that you showed an immense amount of representation of that value. You were the embodiment of that value, or a memory where you observed this value in others. Think of those moments. This will help you identify the most important one. And also, that story will be something that we'll be using. So after you identify your most important value, try to come up with that story. Think of that story. Think of that time that is the most related with the value that you chose. We all have a lot of moments in our lives, yet for us, some of them stay with us longer. Think of those moments. It can be a funny story. It can be a sad story. It can have many different emotions. It can be an angry story. It can have a twisting end. It can be a joke. Or like a joke. Doesn't matter. A memory of yours, a story of yours, an event that has come to pass in your life that represents this value. Because in a few moments, I will ask you to share these stories with each other in a breakout room. If you have not found a story of your own, please raise your hand or signal that you haven't. But I'm guessing everyone has a story to tell. Okay, cool. So in a minute, you will have 8 minutes in total, and you will be in breakout rooms of 2. You will have 4 minutes each to share your story with the other person. Okay? What is important is one person listens, the other person tells their story. That's not it. The person who listens needs to take notes or memorize the story, because they will be telling the story later. They will be telling the other person's story. Learn the story. Listen to it with all your heart, with all the emotions that's coming through. Absorb that story in 4 minutes. So for the ones who are telling the story, do not make the story too long. Of course, there are a lot of details about it that you'd like to share. Focus on the value that you're sharing. How can you make that value shine in that story? So that afterwards, when we're listening to the stories, we get that value. We feel that value. Okay? So, Fernando, can you set up the breakout rooms?
Yeah,
You'll be
there's 8 minutes.
Yeah, it's 8 minutes and 4 per each of you. By the way,
And
have you set up me to become a co-host so that I don't go into the breakout rooms?
yeah, you're out.
Okay.
And you have the 8 minutes, the timer will be counting. And when the rooms are closed, you still have 30 seconds, which is enough to review all the stories. Enjoy your partner. See you.
Welcome back.
Here is Candace. Okay, with me.
Okay, welcome back, all of you. I hope it was fun to share your stories. It doesn't have to be fun. It can be sharing the emotions and the stories. I hope it was valuable. I am inviting you right now, before sharing our stories. You know, miming. You probably heard of miming. Without talking, expressing something, showing something. What would be the representation of your story in miming in just one pose, maybe? Like this. I want each of you to represent it now.
Oh,
Just do one thing with your body. Oh, beautiful.
yeah.
Okay. Now with all these motions, we will be using them. I would like to invite you to do a lip syncing my story session. What we will be experiencing is some of you will volunteer and then will share their stories. But how? The person who has listened to the story will be sharing it by talking. But we will be spotlighting the owner of the story because that person knows it by heart. They will be representing all the emotions with their bodies while the other person is talking, because you will be on mute and they will be talking. But you will also try to lip sync. You will be doing this and we will be hearing your story. Who wants to go first? This is the hardest question that we have encountered in this session. Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Okay, would you like your story to be told or you would like to tell the other person's story?
I will tell Jean's story if she allows me to.
Okay, so for clarification, am I lip syncing then?
Yes.
And then I'm doing all this actions. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And we will be watching you and listening to Suzanne telling your story. And Suzanne, tell the story with the I pronoun. So we're listening Jean's story with I did this and this happened.
Okay, so I'm a very simple person. The values that are important to me are love, because human come first. The second is peace, because peace is important because you need to settle what's inside of you. My third one is contentment. And that's being content with families, friends, neighbors. My fourth one is unity, because it's important to support each other. And it's really through the support of each other that unity, that we can live our love, be peaceful, be content. It's all embodied. And my last one is compassion. So those are my 5 values. I come from a spiritual family, and as I aged, spirituality matured for me, became even more important in my life. And why it became more important in my life? Because I look at the world condition, and we're running amok as a world. Times are hard to deal with. And because of that, it's important that people feel comfort coming. And so people need to have find comfort for themselves, or to have comfort provided to them. And I see myself as providing psychological comfort. I'm a psychological safety net. And these values show up for me in my life by, I live within my means. I'm aware of my limitation. I value, those are tough values to follow, because I need to question myself every day in every action of my life, because it's a framework that informs the way I live. That's
And
it.
That's the story. Congratulations. Let's switch it up and hear, Suzanne, your story.
Okay, so here is Suzanne's story. She shares the values that we just
use
shared.
the I pronoun. Jean, use the
Oh,
I
okay.
pronoun, so we're as if we're hearing you as Suzanne.
Okay. I have the similar values as to what Jean just shared, which would be love, peace, contentment, unity, and compassion. But I look at them slightly differently. I came up through as building community is very important to me. But most important in building this community is to have fun. What does that mean to me? Life is not worth living if you do not have fun in it. It's enjoying being together with family and friends. It's listening to each other. It's respecting others around me. And it's being able to compromise and be friendly about it. My third value is being inclusive. It is all about listening to everyone's voice and making sure that we still have fun. My fourth value is the friendly environment. And then last but not least is I want to trust each and everyone.
And I guess this is it. Congratulations. So who's next? I want to see more of lip syncing. I want to see more lip syncing, trying to move your lips with the words. And Saminata, Candice, Berenice, Mark, Barbara, Michelle, Tara, Jane, Carolina.
I like that you're kind of putting your partner on the spot if you volunteer.
Of course.
Berenice, do you want to go?
Aminata. Okay, Aminata is volunteered. Would
I
you
will
like
try.
your story? Would you like your story, or would you like to tell the story?
I will tell the story that Barbara told me.
Okay. Then we're watching
Oh.
Barbara, and you're telling Barbara's story as if it's your own.
Are you okay, Barbara, to go?
You know what to do.
So Barbara and I had a really interesting chit chat. She explained to me a moment in her life that was very representative of the value that that one of her top values that she had identified. And this moment was attending a celebration of life, and where she was gathered with her family and her close ones. And at one point, there was a little girl there that was, of course, trying to keep busy with all the adults living and mourning their lot, and she drew a little owl. And the little girl was not happy with the result of her. So she actually out loud, I'm just not happy with this owl. It's not a good owl. And Barbara instinctively just went to her and said, any owl is a good owl. And so that basically, she tapped into being right there with the child, she recognized her emotion of being, concerned about that owl. And she made her realize, I've seen you, I've heard you, but it's okay, your owl is fine. Now, once that little moment happened with her, this child, the mother of the child looked at Barbara and said, that's why everybody needs an Auntie Barbara in her life, because Barbara is authentic. And authenticity is pretty much what she wanted to portray and express in sharing her story. Voila.
Thank you, Aminata. And thank you, Barbara. Now, would you like to switch it up? And this will be the last one.
Sadly, we didn't have time. I didn't have time to hear Aminata's story.
Okay. So would someone like to share the last story, or we can go on? Any volunteers? Okay.
Candice.
Okay.
Can I tell your story, Bernice? Yeah, it's okay.
Let's finally listen to Berenice's story. Okay, Candice, you're talking with the I pronoun as if it's your own story, and Berenice, you're lip syncing and doing all the movements representing your emotions in that story.
All right. So when I was a teenager, I had my first real boyfriend, real serious boyfriend. But I was in Girl Scouts, which I had been in for a long time, 11 years. And he didn't like it because it took up my time on the weekends. And then one day he gave me an ultimatum. He said, it's the Girl Scouts or it's me. And we had been 4 years together. This is a big deal, but I felt an eruption. And I said, no way. I don't accept that you give me conditions. And this shows that my value is freedom of choice. Freedom is critical because it gives me everything that I want to be doing. Freedom is the starting point. I want freedom of location, freedom to have my own schedule, independence. I don't want to be in any box. Being free makes me creative, committed, and energized.
Wow, what a performance.
Thank you, Candice.
All right. Thank you for this. And Fernando, can you share the kiwi with everyone? So now Fernando is sharing with you a link, which I want all of you to open. And it has 4 categories in it. The password to enter is expand your values, with all small letters and no space in between. Expand your values. And once you open it, you will see 4 categories: questions, insights, values, and intentions. Now I want you to say if you have successfully opened it or not. Anyone who could not open it? Okay. Everyone's good. Everyone is seeing the 4 categories. When you click the plus, you add a card in there and you can write. Whatever you've heard from these stories, I want you to come up with information for all these categories. How are you coming up with it? Like values, it's pretty easy. We've already been talking about values, so you can pretty much write all the values that you've heard of. But do not just write everything that you heard. Write what's important for you, what you heard from others. Maybe you've figured out something very important from the other person's story or the stories that we've heard now. Insights. Have you learned something from them? Just maybe by sharing or just by writing it down. Did you discover something new? Questions. Do you have any questions that's popping up? Because values, sometimes they're not easy to think of. Because, like I told you, they can contradict. We may have questions of maybe how to apply them better in our lives. Intentions. Have any intentions arisen from hearing these stories, sharing these stories, writing your values? Maybe you want to do more of these things. Maybe you want to be more in line with these things. Write whatever comes to you, whatever is important for you, whatever is coming to the surface. And while writing, also look at what others are writing. It's fully anonymous, so nobody's seeing who's writing what. Well, let's inspire each other with what we say, what we take note of. This is like the sketchbook of our session in 4 categories, and it's called Kiwi. It's nice, the sound. Maybe you can find intentions within yourselves or insights within yourselves or questions within yourselves or other values within yourselves that have not been mentioned, that was not talked about. But the password is expand your values, all small letters. Okay, really interesting questions coming up. I'm really loving how you're writing the intentions with positive language. Because sometimes we are inclined to use double negatives to mean the positive. And I really appreciate that you're using the positive language to express your intentions. Let's take 1 more minute to take note of what is coming up. Read what others are writing. If you have completed with writing and read what everyone else have written, write, I am very valuable to chat. Okay. Sorry, Jean, I sent you a private message saying I am very valuable.
Well, thank you.
I wanted to inform you personally.
I love it. I said that with compassion.
All right. Okay, Mark. Mark has already left. Anyways, so let's continue. So with everything that has been written down, we are moving into our final stage. I want you to find the most important question for you right now about your value, that most important value that you've chosen, that story that you have shared, with everything that you have read so far and listened to so far. What is the one very most important question for you? That can be the same question as you have written down in the Kiwi. But I want each of you to have your own question. Find that question. Simplify it so that it's just one question. It doesn't involve two questions. It doesn't involve if states. It doesn't have prerequisites. If this happens, then the question turns into this, or then this. One simple question, what that question might be for you about the value that is endearing to you, that you want to carry with you, that is the foundation of your morals from which you operate. That is the principle of your actions. What is the question that you're asking yourself to that value? Or maybe you'd like to ask these questions to someone else, but what are you curious about? Anyone who hasn't found their question yet, please raise your hand. Okay, everyone has a question. Amazing. So what are we going to do with this question? See, there's a pattern that we have been experiencing actually throughout this whole journey. In the beginning, you started by listening to me. Then we started to listen to each other by playing a counting game. We realized how important it was for us to observe and listen to each other in order to count to 10. Then we came up with our values. How? By listening to ourselves. Then we come up with a story and we started to listen to each other again. And in lip syncing, we also listen to each other. But in order for that lip syncing to happen, we had to listen really closely. Now we're going a bit deeper into listening. Everyone has a question. So in a few moments, Fernando will be sending you again in pairs to breakout rooms. What is going to happen in the breakout room is you will be talking about your questions. But how? One person will ask the other person's question to them. So if I have a question and Fernando has a question, I will be asking Fernando's question to Fernando. He will start to answer his own question. I will be listening attentively, because the next thing I will do once Fernando stops talking is to repeat exactly what he said back at him. Why am I doing this? Imagine yourselves this being that has no idea about anything. We are the all unknowing. I don't have any idea what Fernando is saying. I cannot interpret it in any way. I cannot paraphrase it, use any other words from what he said. All I can do is repeat it back to him. But I'm a curious being. I don't know anything. So I ask him, can you elaborate on this? Can you explain it a bit more? I really want to understand. You said this exact same words. What do they mean for you? I am not in the role of analyzing what Fernando is saying. I am just helping him out in that state. But I am also emptying myself and opening myself up to listening. And after 4 minutes of doing this for Fernando, he will be doing the same for me. That's why we're going in as pairs in breakouts. Is this completely clear for you? Are you prepared to become the all-unknowing? Yes, Candace?
Well, just from a process point of view, in the breakouts, it never really starts right away. And then, so how long for telling the story, and then how long for saying it back?
There is no specific time for telling the story or saying it back. You have a question. You share your question with the other person, and that person asks you that question, and you start talking about your question for 4 minutes. When the 4 minutes is up, what happens is they ask you the question, you say something, then they repeat it, ask you to explain more. You say something else, they ask you to, they repeat it and ask you to explain it more. For 4 minutes, this happens. So it's back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for 4 minutes for your question. Then for 4 other minutes, it's going to be for the other person. Is that clear? It's not clear.
I have to be honest and say no.
Okay, sure, of course. You tell me your question, and I ask you your question.
Mhm.
When I ask you your question, you start answering. You answered. You said a sentence, maybe 2 sentences. I repeat those 2 sentences back at you.
Okay, okay, so it's a back and forth all the way through.
Yes.
Okay.
We are doing for your question 4 minutes, and then once 4 minutes is up, we switch and you ask me my question, and then I start answering and you repeating.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Cool.
It will be helpful to have a 4-minute notice in the breakout rooms.
Sure.
Can send you, but the timer will be counting as well. But I can send a note. Okay.
So now
8
you're ready to go
minutes.
into your breakout rooms with your questions to discover further.
Okay, here we go.
Welcome back. Welcome, welcome. I am very curious right now, because whatever is happening in the breakout rooms, I have no idea. From all your faces, I can see that it was interesting. It probably was not very easy to be the all unknowing. it's not always easy to leave our thoughts, our predictions, our interpretations, our ability to manipulate words and change them and summarize them. But whatever you did, I am curious to hear about it. How was this experience for you, especially the last part? What is coming up for you? Whoever wants to start, I want to listen to all of you. Tara.
It was really delightful to have my partner, Suzanne, reflect back my question, which, so I guess the nuance just in me saying out into the world and then actually having it reflected back to me, it's like it opened up another passage to let it in, let the question in even more so. It's not an outward energy. It's like, it's an absorption. And then similarly, we did the next cycle around and it just went deeper, and her reflections, even though many times word for word, they were things that I said, I heard it in a different way. So super beautiful exercise. Thank you.
Did you feel the need to explain more of what you say or change what you say?
No, it felt, I didn't feel like I needed more. It felt like a launch pad for even something deeper. If there was more there, it was like I was building upon. I didn't need to, it wasn't about just, you know, a misunderstanding or trying to, you know, fill in the picture. It was actually like, okay, that's done. What else could it be? What, like, there was new options for me.
Thank you. Who's next? Jane?
Yeah, I found it really powerful to just connect my question when it was repeated back to me. And then the elaboration I gave kind of fed almost directly into the question then that was coming to me from Barbara. And so the answers, like, I almost forget which elaboration pertained to which question. They were, you know, there was so much learning for me anyway. I can't speak for Barbara, but for me in hearing her elaborate more and more on her question and how much it informed the answer to my own question. And so it was just, that was really powerful to just to see the connectedness between two people when they get into a certain level of exploration. It's almost like you're all on the same plane at that point, you know.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you.
I would add on to that as well, the sense of nourishment in the activity. So the sense of being heard and in the listening to Jane, realizing when I began to speak my question, how much relationship they had. Yeah. So nourishment and a greater sense of space. So it felt like the pacing for that felt more welcoming, actually.
This is not something we experience in our everyday conversations. We go in a very fast pace, even though we slow down ourselves or calm ourselves down. That listening part impacts a lot. So who's next? Suzanne?
Sure. The word that comes for me at this point, which is related to a word that came at the beginning of the session, is patience. And I guess it's just more admiration for that word. So patience and similarities, because as Tara was talking, I was saying, I wonder if she realized she's answering her own question. But that was not for me to say, but it seemed that when I repeated it, she heard herself spoke, but she And so that's that. And I really, unfortunately, we ran out a bit short on time. So I really wanted to experience hearing myself back from Tara, what Tara had heard. And same thing too, it was kind of like, wow, you know, I was answering my own question, but didn't really realize it. So that patience things of sometimes, you know, you run around external, but really it's all in, recognizing that we all have a very, a sense of intelligence. Well, we are all very emotionally intelligent. We just forget to listen to ourselves. I can just talk for me. I forget to listen to myself, but it's certainly way helpful and more exciting to do it with someone than do it by myself.
Wow, thank you. Who's next? Jean, can we hear you? Oh, Candace, okay.
Go ahead, Jean.
Okay, so when it's all said and done, Candace and I thought our two questions were so different, but yet they came together when the ending, because I tend to be a person that love is very important to. And so when she asked my question first to me, and then we went to Candace last. Her last word was love. So it's like we did the whole circle and ended back up on love, which was just amazing to me. What I learned about myself is having Candace throw this terribly difficult question that I ask myself every day anyway. I started off as kind of a wishy-washy kind of answer, but each time she asked me, I firmed it up. I became even more like, yes, I do demonstrate love every day. But the first time was like, well, I kind of try. But by the time I got through the third round, it was definitely there. And then going through Candace and her wonderful responses of how to be honest with close relationships. And then she walked herself through and ended up on love. It was just a very, very powerful experience. And so thank you for this activity. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. Now I'm even more curious about what Candace is going to say.
I think Jean covered it beautifully. I'm thinking, do I have much to add to that? I thought that was great. Yeah, I just, again, like she said, the increasing conviction, in her answers, and yeah, I feel like, oh, I kind of have I've given myself some kind of marching orders, right? Like, oh, okay, well, what prevents that honesty? Oh, well, really, is that what's more important? No, what's more important is the quality of the relationship and opening more love in their relationship and intimacy with friends, family, partners, in any close relationship. So it's like, oh yeah, well, sure, you're scared, whatever, just keep going.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Candace, for that. Thank you all. But before closing, we have 5 more minutes. I like to embrace this time to share with you what you can do further with what you have discovered today, which is actually the final stage, which you can do on your own. You can prepare yourself an action map where you talk about your past behaviors, past habits that you want to do more of, do less of, stop doing, and new behaviors and habits. What do you want to take on for yourself? Looking at your values, how do you want to choose to behave? These sometimes become very big. How do we deal with that? You can try to find the smallest step possible. The least common denominator in math, it's kind of like that. What's the smallest possible step that you can take towards that new behavior or habit? Once you find that smallest step, and once you repeat that, it will become a habit. And then you can take another step, and then another one, and then another one. Because what happens with us, with humans, is once we are taking steps, we're forgetting how we're taking them at one point. It becomes very unconscious for us. Maybe some of you drive cars. Maybe all of you do. When you're driving cars now, how often do you think where to put your feet or where to put your hand? It's only in the first times that we're learning, right? We think of those things. But step by step, we forget that we are thinking of all these things. So create your own action map to change your lives for the better that you have discovered today. And I would also like to, before hearing Carolina and Fernando's last remarks and their experience and their comments, I would also, again, like to remind you about contribution balanced participation from 0 to infinity with the connectedness of abundance. Whatever you give, I fully accept with my heart. So Fernando, Carolina, thank you for inviting me here today.
Yeah,
I
thank
also would like to hear you. Finally.
Thank you so much, Meir. It was delightful to see you facilitating. So I always look at other facilitators with these eyes. Okay, what can I learn? What inspires me? What I'll be doing differently? So I always learn a lot. And today was awesome. Thank you for coming and working so beautifully. Carolina.
I like this curiosity of looking how, a way of facilitating as well. I like to see that. But like going deep into my values and all the work that we did here, it was a very deep work. So I appreciate that. And I believe that all these women, we can see that there's only women here. We had Mark before, but who choose to be here at the end. So all women. And I think we need to do something for women. And another thing that came to me is when Suzanne was talking about patience, it was like this phrase of patience, I am learning. And have that in, like as I go. And that's it. So thank you so much, Meir. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all for coming here. Amazing.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for organizing it.
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for meeting you, Meir, and sharing with us. Thanks.
Yep.
Really fun.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
Bye-bye.
See you
Bye.
soon.
Bye.